One of the top 5 mortgage brokers ends up in the bottom 3 for growth this past week. Somebody new shoots up to the top 3 for the first time this year, and mortgage brokers slow to grow, but are they actually winning? Let's get started with this week's gainers and losers. My name is Thomas Meister. I am the agent for loan officers, and I do this weekly video so that way you can see who are the mortgage companies who are winning. This is meant to be an unbiased look at the data. Don't shoot the messenger, but I want to make sure that you are seeing on a weekly basis who's gaining, who is losing. We're going to look at the data, speculate a little bit. Let me share my screen here and show you what we're working with this week. So one of the things that we're looking at are the top 3 gainers for mortgage banks this past week. And if looking at the data, no surprise at all. CrossCountry Mortgage ending up in the top 3, actually number 1, with a net gain of 24 loan originators this past week. So we have a net gain of 24 LOs and $103.5 million of annualized production. So who's coming in? And we're going to look at those $10 million plus producers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a good barometer for those of you who are watching this for the first time. What is a company doing well at attracting better producers? So let's see. Is there any theme here? Summit Funding, but they're on the bottom list, but we're not counting them at all because Summit Funding was just bought by CrossCountry Mortgage, right? This week, CrossCountry Mortgage attracting some top talent, and actually one of them coming from a broker. So somebody leaving, a bigger producer leaving a broker, coming back into the IMB channel. But who'd they lose? Losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 $10 million plus producers. So it's pretty close in terms of that, gaining more production than they lost. But you can see right here some of the companies that they're going to. Oh, somebody else went to the same company that the other person came from. All right, cool. A few people to guaranteed rate. Inactive, license is currently inactive. But if you look at it, when you see it on gainers, you'll see that new or previously inactive. If I clicked on this, I could go to their name and see where were they at. There's probably a gap in between that individual's license when their license was let go and when they started. So great week for CrossCountry Mortgage. Coming in at number 2 is that company that ended for the first time this year, ending up in the top 3. We have Geneva Financial. I hear that name quite frequently. I don't know anybody there. And if I do, I'm sorry, I forgot about you. Or you moved there and you didn't tell me. Okay. So net gain of 12 loan originators for Geneva Financial and $74.3 million of annualized production. So having a good week. It is a smaller, I think 1.3 billion, right? But that's why. So they picked up a big group from Canopy Mortgage. I did actually notice Canopy is going to be on one of the losers toward the bottom. They're not top 3 losers for this week, but this would probably be why. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to count kind of all the way to 9 million because that could be one loan that maybe for some reason closed in someone else's name or was a referral. Give them benefit of the doubt. $5 $10 million plus producers coming in and probably no one leaving. A producer leaving, but not a $10 million plus producer leaving. One of the things we actually are going to start doing, we did this last week. I put out a full video. So if you want to see it on CrossCountry Mortgage, but I'm going to do it for Genevieve this week, is we're going to start looking at them almost as stocks. Right? If this was a stock, how well is this company performing over the period of time that we're able to look? So in the last week, they've grown by 74 million. Looks like they actually lost some people. So not as good when you look at 2 weeks. Flat over a month, quarter, not as good over the last quarter, 6 months, not as good over the last 6 months. Net loss actually of originators, net loss of originators, but production at 15.7. And in the last year, they've actually lost approaching, basically $400 million of annualized production. So Geneva Financial having a good week and ending up in the top 3 for this past week. Good job. It is, more recently performing better, right? So I think that's important to know, is not just, 1 week does not represent. And again, if you want to see this data in depth and you want to play around with this, link in the description to Redder. That's where we're pulling all this data from, so you can get an account and you can play with this to your heart's content and dive down every single rabbit hole. So Geneva Financial, who came in at number 2 for this week, and coming in at number 3, guaranteed rate. You can look at the spread here, right? So really these top 4, we're going to do New American Funding as an honorable mention. Barrett Financial is Supreme Lending, Cornerstone First Mortgage, Gold Star Mortgage, American Financial Network. All honorable mentions here. New American Funding is really kind of the next closest. Just remember that this is net gain of loan officers. The loan volume is not, you can't trust it. So I haven't found a way to make this report with the loan volume really more accurate. If you have an idea for me, DM me or drop a comment. So that way I can do that for everybody, for everybody's benefit. But right now we're just going off of LO gain And it's not always true. Just gaining loan officers does not always mean that you are gaining production. So we have to look, right? Trust, but verify. And at least once a week, I would say on average, there's somebody who's breaking the norm, right? Just because they gained people or lost people, they could have lost production or gained production. So great week for guaranteed rate. Net gain of 10 originators, but for $235 million of annualized production. Wow. Okay. So they're taking the cake for IMBs this past week, picking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 10 million. Well, okay. So see right here, this person moved from guaranteed rate affinity to guaranteed rate. Well, guaranteed rate affinity is a joint venture with Coldwell Banker. So you have to be careful sometimes how you count everybody. Sometimes I point it out when I see somebody in here, like Swift Mortgage. Sure, let's dive in one rabbit hole. I'm going to try not to do this so much, guys. But yes, Swift Mortgage, okay, I had a feeling that, this person does a lot of new builds. And so there's a couple indicator like that. The fact that he doesn't have a single repeat deal from any realtor. So this person, is that business going to repeat? Is that $30 million actually going to repeat? Well, here's a little trick. And I'm sorry that I'm picking on somebody by doing this, right? Is if you look at somebody's 12-month production, 12 months, okay, well, that was maybe during some better times. So what you really want to do is if you were to say, okay, over the last 12 months, you're 30 million, but what about the last 6 months? Over the last 6 months, you did 5 million, so just times 2 is only 10 million. Okay. And actually, I noticed it's a lot more existing home than purchase. So maybe why this person is switching. But so really, if you annualize it, it's like, okay, are you now going to do $10 million of production? And if you were even more tight on it and said 3 months, it's not 0. Why is it rounding down? That's not fair. That's a mistake right there. But what is this? 2 loans for 281 and then 1 loan. Oh, it's a big loan, 1.3. Okay. So, what is that? 1.5, let's say 1.5. So 6 million. They might do 6 million. Again, I don't know. Oh, and a lot of that was a home equity line of credit. Oh, only 8,000 of it. Okay. All right. So interesting stuff. If you look at it and try and synthesize, all right, is this likely to repeat? So sorry that I did that to this person, but the data is the data. When you're looking at, and just for loan officers out there and even for companies, right? If you're a company, then you're trying to say, okay, what is this person's real production? And if you're a loan officer, one of the things I always like to say is, just remember, everybody's going to get what they deserve and nobody's going to get what they don't deserve. And everybody's going to find out. Like in the end, everybody's going to know who deserved what. So I always am an advocate for cards always face up on the table. If we're all staying in a place of integrity, then guess what? I think that's actually a better quality in somebody is honesty. And I'm not saying that anybody's being dishonest. I'm just saying it's a great philosophy to live life by, because that way you get what you deserve and people trust you. So moving on. We're not going to do that again. Just wanted to show you guys that not just because somebody picked up a new loan officer, it doesn't necessarily mean that, okay. Because again, if looking at Redder, this is one of the reasons I love Redder, by the way. This time last year, Redder was on pace to do 35 billion. So if everybody who worked at guaranteed rate, right, these 3,393 loan officers, 35 billion. And if you look at today, the originators who are there today represent 35.29 billion. So 200 million more. And that's in the last week, because I can't be right if you look at here. Yeah, okay. So if I back up to last year, then you can see that guaranteed rate, because they are one of the top performing stocks, right? Like if you look at mortgage companies as stocks, I did a whole video on this. It should be, did we post it yet? It should be on YouTube. If not, go ahead and throw a comment and say you can't find it in my channels, my things. It should be up by the time you see this. But they're growing. They've grown by 2 billion in the last year. So performing well, guaranteed rate number 3 this week on total loan officers gain. We already kind of mentioned some honorable mentions. So let's move on to brokers. And by the way, we're going to always go in gainers on all 3 channels: IMBs, brokers, banks. Then we're going to switch in reverse order and do losers, banks, brokers, IMBs. And so kind of like when I say start with the best and end with the best, understand that there's a lot more movement in the IMB channel. I would say last year there was a lot more movement in the broker channel, but not as much right now. I see that there's a lot more brokers moving to other brokers, which is interesting to watch. And there are more brokers who had maybe left the IMB space going back. Something is happening there. Something is happening where I think that it was early adopters, right? A lot of early adopters got huge benefit from going into the broker channel first. And I don't know. Leave a comment if you think that there's a reason for that, or if you disagree with me. Just because I have an opinion on something, I have an opinion on everything, by the way. And I'll always raise my hand and ask for some grace. I reserve the right to change my mind, but would love to know your thoughts on that as well. So this week, coming in at number 1 in the brokers is Barrett Financial Group. So Barrett is the number 1. I'm pretty sure they're the number 1. Sometimes I say things without verifying. Yes, they're the biggest. I think, is it Expert is number 2? No, not Expert. Nexa is number 2. And then there is one of the bigger ones on the bottom for this week. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to look for the trend to see if this, so yes, Barrett adding. So Barrett always adds a lot of licenses, right? So a lot of the bigger brokerages add a lot of new people. A lot of them don't do a ton of production, right? So they can always increase their production. But 25 net gain, originators, almost $100 million, so $96 million annualized production this week, going to Barrett Financial. It looks like Veritas, yes. So they're one of the biggest losers on the IMB side, and this will probably be why. Is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 $10 million plus producers coming in to Barrett Financial Group. Okay. One of the things about Barrett Financial, I'm just going to start putting things out there as I'm learning them. Barrett has a flat fee model, just so you know. Depending on who you come in under, some companies provide, or groups, I should say, right? Like, maybe there are divisionals or regionals at Barrett, like if there's a bigger team, right? If you join one of those teams, then, you might have additional support, right? So Barrett is kind of known for having a flat fee model. Not saying that you're not paying basis points to some of these other people if you partner with their group, right? But let's look at who left, if any. Only two $10 million plus producers. So we have somebody who went to eMortgage, another brokerage, and then one going to a bank. Actually, the bigger $10 million producer going to a bank. Interesting. Okay. So that's our biggest gainer for this week in the broker channel. But let's see if Nexa can oust them, maybe in production. Not people, but production. Okay. So we have our first loser this week, which is technically supposed to be one of the gainers, but they only gained licenses. They gained bodies. It's a net gain of loan officers, but it's a net loss of production. So let's look at it. Over the last week, Nexa Mortgage, net loss or gain of 14 loan officers, but net loss of $22.4 million of annualized production. So not good. I mean, it's not nothing, and it's, not meh, but it's not good, right? And it's just a week, remember? It's just, we're going to back up, and we haven't done this for brokers yet. So I did put out a full video on the top IMBs, top 10 IMBs, looking at them as stocks, like how they've performed, right, over the last year, backing up, right? So you can kind of see it like a candlestick. We haven't done that for brokers yet, so we'll do that here. But we have one, so only gaining one $10 million plus producer. And again, I think that, to me, I always point that out because I think it says something, right? It's one thing to gain a lot of people, and right, to gain units, right? That's great. But what about production? So they only gained one $10 million plus producer. And again, you can kind of look here and see where they came from. But lost, so they probably lost somebody bigger. So, okay, two $10 million plus producers leaving, and one of them going to another broker. So Go Rascal, also known for being flat fee. Not saying that you only ever pay a flat fee. Remember, I'm the loan officer's agent. Call me. I can give you and help you. Like when somebody's presenting you an offer or something like that, or trying to woo you, right? One of the things is, unfortunately, in not just mortgage, but even in real estate, in most recruiting, actually, when companies are trying to grow that way, they say a lot of the perfect words to get someone to join. But what about reality? So that's where I come in, is I can support you and just make sure that you're getting some of that reality. I can introduce you to friends who work there already, people who have worked there, and just look at everything you're getting and show you other. So, okay, interesting that another producer went back, so going to Supreme Lending, right? So that would probably be why, is they lost some bigger producers, and even though they brought in more people, it didn't really balance out with the number of losses that Nexa had. So unfortunately, Nexa is our first loser for this week, even though they're supposed to be the second biggest gainer on the broker side. So, but hey, I love me a good surprise. Let's look at number 3 this week for brokers. We have Primerica. So it's flat, right? Net gain of 12 loan originators, but that's one loan, right? Or 2 loans, depending on where you are in the country, right? So flat week, not really gaining or losing any production, but they picked up, a lot of people. And I mean, they probably lost just one. No, all of that's one person. Remember, one of the things to look at every single week is looking at a company and what kind of production they are doing, right? Home equity line of credit. That's very profitable. So that's One of the things, I'll tease this. We're going to tease something, guys. I haven't shown anybody this. And for what it's worth, remember, it's just data. And just because I'm highlighting it in green and red, I'm talking to my friends trying to figure out what this means. This is just IMB lenders, right? So just mortgage banks. And it is the top 23. So the criteria I think I put on here was they had to do at least 10,000 units and they had to be at least 30% purchase based. And I was interested to see, okay, who are the biggest purchase lenders out there, right? So I'm not going to dive into this yet. I'm going to make a full video on this. If you would like to see that sooner rather than later, please let me know, drop a comment. But I think that it is interesting to see who some of the bigger companies are that are maybe more balanced. And then other companies below and some of them are growing really fast, do a lot more purchase. Some do a lot more. Again, I'm highlighting some of these in red. Is it bad if you do a lot more refi? What does it say about the company, right? Because every decision is a decision to do something, right? And not doing something about something else is a decision to not do something about that thing. Sorry, not trying to get jumbled up in words here, and then HELOC business. There's some companies just pouring themselves into HELOC business. So I'm not going to do that. It's a teaser. If you made it this far and you saw that, please let me know what your thoughts were on that. But Primerica, flat week for them. So, and not really gaining any people. So honorable mentions for brokers, we have Loan Factory gaining 9. We have C2 Financial gaining 7. And then very small company that I just saw come up in here. I don't actually know them, but hey, if you gained 6 originators, that's almost a 25% increase in the number of originators that you have with your company. Let's do it. Let's just throw in one honorable mention and show somebody new for a change. I think that it's not always, you don't want to always just highlight the people who are the usual suspects. So we've got Ultimate Funding. Is that Ultimate is like Altamont Funding. They're a broker. So last week, net gain, no loss. So just gaining 6 loan officers for $36 million of annualized production. We've got $10 million plus producers. So they're coming from Expert Home Lending and CrossCountry. It's kind of like a coordinated effort maybe. But how long have they even been around, right? Like, can we see the company's production? They've been ramping up, right? Like, so they're newer. So let's look at them. So last 2 weeks, same month, they gained 2 other producers over the last month. Last quarter, $133 million annualized production. Past 6 months, $152 million annualized production. In the last year, $215 million of annualized production, right? So a very, very new company, right? In the grand scheme, but they're growing, right? So, and they're not losing a lot of people. So it's probably a really strong group of people that have started their own company and they're trying to attract people, like-minded people, to this brokerage, doing it their way. Kudos to Ultimate Funding. And where are they based out? They're based out of Rockland, California. Okay. And where do they do their business? And that's one of the cool things about Redders. You can see all this stuff, right? So most of their business is California, Colorado, and you can even see who they're broker correspondent. So they're, of course, doing correspondent lending with, so the fact that they're here, right? Like, they have warehouse lend. So they're delegated, Core, and Rocket. A lot of the times they're forced to choose between UWM and Rocket. So they're using Rocket. Oh, hey, nice to have somebody. This was the honorable mention. Yeah. Hey, good job. Somebody new ending up on the top of the list this week. We're going to look at banks. However, one of the things that we need to keep in mind, and I say this every single week, is that banks don't operate like IMB banks, lenders, mortgage banks, or brokers, because they're consumer focused, right? Like, they're depositories, they handle business there, and a lot of loan officers there. Not all. I have a lot of friends who crush it at some of these different banks, including Huntington Bank, Truist, JPMorgan, USA Bank. I don't see them on top of the list this week because this is just the gainers. I'm not going to click into any of these. Just here's the data, right? I think there was one. Okay, so there's one bank that operates. I do have a short list, right? So this is my short list of hints, notes I get from people that watch these companies, because they're banks, right? Like, they started out as a bank or they started out as an IMB direct lender that either bought a bank or they mostly operate like an IMB lender, right? They're focused on the mortgages, not on the deposits and things like that. So we've got Cornerstone Capital Bank. We're going to take a quick peek at them as one of the gainers for banks, representing Cornerstone Capital Bank, representing the banks this week. Okay, so in last week, net gain of 4 loan originators for $34 million of annualized production. And we've got, they all came from CrossCountry. So a group leaving CrossCountry, or team, could be a branch, could be, it's probably not a coincidence when this many people are leaving one company. Remember, CrossCountry, to lose, I guess, it's a net gain of, what is the net? It's roughly $63 million of production. And they still ended up as number one for this week. Obviously, only they could probably do that. Them and some of the other, like probably top three. Like, if you're over 20 billion, then you can sustain that kind of movement and still be in the top three. To lose that amount of production and losing no $10 million plus producers. Well, let's do our new thing, which is we're just going to look and see how they've been performing over the last year, right? So there was a less right there, right? So in the last 2 weeks, they actually lost some more people, and then they gained, month, 149 million. So actually performing pretty well over the last month. Quarter, not as good over the last quarter. A lot more people had left when you back up that far. 6 months, it's even worse actually, at negative 113 million, and year at negative 206 million. So as a stock, performing well more recently, but coming down and now starting to come back up right now in the last couple of weeks. So that technically was a gainer. So now we're going to focus on losers because let's see. Yeah, we're not going to look at any of these people in the middle. Okay. So there's only two that I see here because again, like we're not going to probably consider any of these companies. Fulton Bank, I'm going to look at them just because I know a couple people there that are heavy referral based, and I saw that there was a bunch more movement there, right? So let's see what happened. No change. So the people who are gone, probably all of them are zero, right? So zero. Whoever they gained is no production. Whoever they lost is no production. If it's literally zero, I doubt that it is that close. So really, that doesn't count. Flat week for Fulton. But Luminate Bank, I have a lot of friends there. So they operate very much as a purchase-based mortgage company. Not a good week for Luminate Bank. Net loss of 5 loan originators for $32.5 million of annualized production. They only gained one person who does no business and losing one $10 million plus producer. And it's really spread out here. So some of these other people who left, not going to the same place, like not going together. Maybe this person ends up at one of those companies, but no consistency there. So not a good week for Luminate Bank. All right, now we're going to move on to brokers, the losers on the broker side. And this is interesting because I said at the beginning of this video that they're slow to grow, but are they winning? One of the things I just noticed, and I'd love your guys' comments and thoughts on this, is there's just not a lot of like big losers. And again, we're talking net, right? Like I'm sure, again, get your own Redder account. If you already have one, go look it up and tell me. Because yes, if I run this, we're going to run it because we have to. We got to look at one of the biggest brokers and why they're on the losing side this week. But maybe they gained more people. They did. Hey, so it's only a net loss of 3. The movement, the amount of people moving net loss, the net loss amounts on the IMB side are way more than on the broker side. Okay, but losing 3 people, but net gain of $22.3 million annual production. So gaining a huge producer from True Rate Mortgage. Not sure who they are. Drop a comment if I don't know anyone who works there, but one originator coming over from there to Expert Home Lending. And then losing, they did lose a bigger producer as well. So they, and that's interesting, going back to CrossCountry, right? So CrossCountry, I have definitely noticed that as a trend. CrossCountry is attracting a lot of brokers back to the IMB channel. And I think that my friend Stephen Moy, shout out to Stephen with New American Funding, he and I were talking and he'd mentioned this to me, is that one of the reasons that this is probably happening a lot more is some of these companies that have a lot more servicing and some of the other tools at their disposal, they are doing sign-ons. They are trying to attract, and they're winning a lot right now. And one of the things that helps you win is winning more. So the more you win, the more you win. And it just compounds after a while. So it is happening a lot right now. And I'm gonna keep my nose out of it. And I have friends who have told me that when you take sign-ons, I don't know if this person took sign-ons, but if you take sign-ons, there's no such thing as free money. You're paying for it somewhere. I have friends who've told me that's not true. I have people who've told me it did happen to them, or they have for lots of friends that happened to. But one of the things I think that is always true in life is, like I said at the beginning of this video, we're all going to get what we deserve. If somebody joins a company and then you don't perform, and then people end up saying, oh, they changed my rates and they didn't keep their promises. Well, if you didn't bring in the business that you said you were going to, and then you have all these team members and you're refusing to let them go, maybe they are messing with your rates. But sure, from a morality standpoint, and I'm going to try and remain Switzerland on this, is who's right and who's wrong. Like the truth is somewhere in the middle, and the rest of us will never know. But guess what? Once news gets out, people start to speculate and they'll fill that narrative gap with their own version of things. And as human beings, we tend to fill it with the worst shit we can think of. So are companies messing with people's margins when they give them sign-ons? Yes, no, maybe. you have experience with that, drop a comment if you've experienced that and you want to throw in your 2 cents. But expert home lending, we hadn't done this yet, so let's do it. Over the last 2 weeks, not growing as much. Over the last month, a little bit better. Over the last quarter, no, negative $91 million. That's pretty bad. 6 months, not as bad, coming down to 68 million, and backing up to the last year, 60 million. So as a stock, it's kind of like gone some big swings, and in the last week, it's up slightly. So good job, expert home lending, not ending up in the top losers for this week. And then a bigger MTH Mortgage. I know the name, but I don't know a lot of people there. So we're going to quickly throw this in here and have a peek and do some research. So that way I can be more informed. But losing 2 originators, gaining nobody, but losing $75 million of production. Wow. That's huge. And they are purchase-based. So net loss of basically $76 million annual production. 2 big producers leaving. Grace Home Lending, maybe they started their own brokerage. We'll quickly jump in a rabbit hole there. And I am curious if these people they do purchase, well, the company does purchase business, but let's quickly understand. So this is going to take a second to load because I have too many browsers open. Okay, note this up. Close more browsers before you go and open everything. But we have Grace Home Lending and show full company profile. Okay, it does look pretty. Well, no, they've been around since April last year. So picking up big producer and growing a lot, actually, as a brokerage based out of San Antonio, Texas. In the last year, gaining 10 loan officers, gain of $237 million annualized production. Last 6 months, last quarter, 152, last month, 121, 2 weeks, 57, and then, well, it's the same person. So Grace Home Lending actually growing a lot right now. And I did want to look at the producer who joined just to make sure. Well, they do a lot of builder business. So is that likely to continue if it's their account, right? If it wasn't from the company, they got some repeat business, but not a lot for their production. So I would say it's probably not as likely to continue at that level, right? So it looks good. See, this person, John, also. So MTH, I feel like they are a builder, right? Do I have time? Am I able to jump in this rabbit hole here really quickly? I'm not going to Google it. I'm going to resist. I'm going to resist that urge because we're going to wrap it up with IMBs. We're going to wrap it up with our IMB lenders. Okay. So one of the top 5 lenders for this week, or one of the top 5 lenders, right? Period. Fairway Independent Mortgage ending up in the bottom 3. Guaranteed Rate Affinity is that joint venture with Coldwell Banker for guaranteed rates, net loss of 12. And then we've got Veritas Funding. We saw that. They didn't sell, but a lot of people have been leaving, I think, over the last 2, maybe even 3 weeks. We've been seeing their name come up. So let's start with the biggest loser for this week. Summit Funding, remember, they sold, so we're not even counting that. Actually, we should count it because I want to see if some of those people in last week didn't go to CrossCountry. They went someplace else. Ooh, we got to look at that. That'll be we'll end with that because I think that's an interesting thing to see. It's not just because a company sold doesn't mean everybody's going to go along with it, guys. All right. So Guaranteed Rate Affinity losing 12 loan originators, net loss, and $30 million of annualized production. So bringing in one $10 million plus producer from TD Bank, which makes sense, bringing a loan officer from a bank because you're serving real estate agents deals, right, like that are from Coldwell Banker. It's kind of given to you in a way. Not true for everyone there. I have friends there, so it's not true for all of them. And then this person who left, remember, they went to guaranteed rate. So it's not as bad as it actually looks. It's probably a loss for them, but not as bad as it looks. Okay. So now we're going to look at Veritas just to kind of see what is this continued trend. Veritas to lose people. They do a lot of refinance business, right? So not gaining anybody and just losing 11 people for $64 million of annualized production. A lot of these people, okay, going to Barrett like we saw before. And maybe this person's also planning on ending up there. And they probably do a lot of, we're just going to look at one. Probably do a lot of refis. Okay, so that makes sense. If they're trying to do leads and they're going to Barrett and they're going to buy more leads, buy their own leads instead of, maybe that was Veritas's angle is they're just obviously heavy refi. So, and not all, they do purchase-based business as well. And so they're much smaller in the grand scheme because they've just been losing a lot of people over the last couple of weeks. So smaller, but so Fairway, biggest notable loser for this week because they're one of the top 5 brokers. They're one of the top 5 IMB lenders in the country. And that's going to translate into $46 million loss in annualized production for that net loss of 10 loan originators. So who'd they gain? One person from Lennar. That's they're one of the biggest builders in the country. So I don't think that's going to repeat unless you're assigning them to a builder account, but it's not going to be from Lennar Homes. They're not going to do Lennar Homes business. And so loss of three $10 million plus producers. We got somebody going to Loan Depot, Mason McDuffie. We don't know where this person is going, but that'll do it, right? I mean, I'm not even going to count this person. So it's really three $10 million plus producers leaving. Not a good week for Fairway Independent Mortgage, probably the biggest loser for IMBs this past week. Notable, before we head over to Summit, notable mentions, Mortgage Solutions of Colorado, they've been on the losing list a lot. Synergy One, they have also been on this screenshot, like of the bottoms, a lot. And so has Lower. Lower has been on here a lot. We're not going to dive into that rabbit hole. We're just going to end here by looking at Summit funding because I'm super curious if everyone's going along with it. Because not everybody has, CrossCountry Mortgage is the biggest, which is probably their biggest weakness. That's one of the perceptions out there is that when they're so big, do you want to work at such a big company because now you're competing against other people in your market? But if you're abundance minded, that shouldn't matter to you unless it actually matters to you. And you're like legitimately competing over some of the same people. And now you're not allowed to try and get those people's business. And I know people who've said that. So two sides of a coin there. And both sides make sense to me. Over the last week, obviously this makes sense because they've been bought. But how did they gain someone? Okay, someone's license just popped up. Maybe they're going to start doing transitional loans or something as they shut down. So no, not everyone is going along with it. Okay, so you've got, as far as $10 million producers go, two of them going to Loan Depot. Maybe if you count this person, but that would not count. So I said Loan Depot. One of them did. Someone went to Loan Depot. Someone went to New American Funding, and this person, we don't know where they're going yet. So the license is inactive. If it's inactive, I honestly think that they are going someplace else. They're not going to CrossCountry because they would have already shipped your license over there. So that person probably saying, I'm not sure I want to go along with this. I'm looking at other options. So I would imagine this person is either already taking an offer with somebody else or still discerning, not going along with the plan. So we're going to end with that. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Let me know you made it this far. And I'm more than happy to get feedback on what I can do to improve this weekly gainers and losers video. Please drop a comment or DM me on any of my social media channels. You can find me, Thomas Meister, the LO agent. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in next week's video.